You can see his that's awesome. Did you get one? Yeah. Not you.
No, ladies.
I'll go grab one.
Roger, right?
Let me take this chair.
Right there.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming out to celebrate Brett's life celebration and how important it is for him to have all your faces here and your stories and memories. And I know that Brett would be so very grateful and appreciative of all of you here. We're going to get started with, first of all, we want to thank Sylvia for playing the music and sharing that with us. We're going to start with John Bocutt, and then following that, it'll be Noel Hyatt, and we'll go to that point. Thank you.
I had to bring my own readers. Doug didn't have any, which is very unusual. I borrow his readers all the time. So, Brett D. Davies, age 60, passed away Friday, February 11th, 2020. Ryan, Janelyn, and myself had the privilege to be with him when he passed, but all of you were in his heart. He was born to Verl D. and Geraldine Hyatt Davies. Brett grew up in Mapleton and Spanish Fork and made his home in Springville, Utah. He graduated from Spanish Fork High School and followed by an education at Utah Technical College, majoring in auto body, auto mechanics, and pool, no matter what they tell you. He reminded me recently, he said, "Do you remember all the days we went down and played pool?" And admittedly, we kind of hustled some of those students. But he actually became good at auto mechanics and auto body, and I became good at pool. I should have got better. Brett worked with his father at the family business, PhD Trucking in Spanish Fork, unless the lake was glass. Then he would tell Dad that we needed to go water skiing. Steve will go with us. And of course, Dad was okay with that. He wanted him to enjoy his life, so he always said yes. Almost always said yes. I think that's probably more accurate. In 1986, he and his father formed Auto Brokers of Utah, located in Springville. Brett loved working with his dad and did so until his father's passing, until Dad's passing in 2010. Brett continued running Auto Brokers until his passing. Like his father before him, Brett possessed an incredible work ethic, and you could always find either of them or both of them at the shop. When Brett wasn't working, he enjoyed water skiing, scuba diving, and fishing with his friends and family. Hey guys, remember that time I caught the biggest fish? He would tell us that. He would ask us that while the fish was still in the live well splashing around. It's true, isn't it, Doug? He loved fast cars, fast boats, and he could fix anything. He was even a bit of a dentist. So he would fix his teeth with J.D. Wells. Don't try this at home. I tried to convince him it wasn't a good idea, and he did it. Again, it's true, isn't it, Doug? Yeah? I have somebody who can confirm everything I'm saying is true. Everyone around him enjoyed his amazing generosity and positive attitude. Brett was extremely patient and always put others first. He was a friend to all and loved by many. Brett was happiest when he was captaining a boat with his family and friends. So true. After Dad passed away, he became the default captain on all boats. It was hard. I mean, we'd go out fishing, and it was always Brett at the helm. So it's hard for me. I like being at the helm. He was preceded in death by his parents, Burl and Jerry, and his stepmother, Betty Bocat. He is survived by his sisters, Sherilyn, and Carolee, and Jenna Lynn, and 7 stepbrothers. Ready? We're going to go fast. Mike, Don, Steve, Jim, David, John, Carl. I've done that before. A special thanks to Dr. Jeff Wallentine, as well as the ICU nurses, respiratory therapists, pulmonologist Clark Bishop, and Michael Pierce. Janelyn made sure he had the very best possible team. It's going to be hard for me now, but she made sure, and she tried to help him, and nobody worked harder than Brett. Brett wanted to be here. I know that's not logical, but he wanted to be here because he had told me about what he wanted to have at his funeral, and he would have been so pleased to see all of these people that he loved so much, and here celebrating his life. So thank you. He will be interned at the Spanish Fork Cemetery, where he'll be buried next to his loving mother and father. That was the easy part for me. Now, quickly to the hard part. Brett would love all of this. I didn't want to bring any notes for this talk today, but I have to tell you, I wanted to talk from my heart, but my heart is broken. And my mind is a mush of emotions. He was a great friend and brother. I tried to be strong for, is that you, Joanne?
I love that.
Do you want me to get it?
So,
Thank you, that actually helps a little. I tried to be strong and stoic for Janelyn at the hospital. And I never wanted to give up hope. Janelyn was the best advocate you could ever imagine to have at the hospital. And she knew too much. And I just kept telling her, he's still going to make it. He's still going to make it. Me and Noel, when we talked, we were sure he was going to make it. Oh my goodness, he tried so hard. I wish you all could have seen how hard he tried to be here. Every breath was a labor. Every breath. He had to work at it every time. So Brett had an amazing capacity to love. He wanted to love all of you, every one of you. And maybe you've had a disagreement with him, because I was around. And so I saw some of those disagreements. And you know what? He wanted to love every one of you. He would forgive you so rapidly. Me and Steve were just talking, and it sometimes shocked him, and it also shocked me how quickly Brett would forgive and forget, because he wanted to love everybody. So I hesitate to mention any names because there's just so many people in the room and so many people that he loved. Tommy, Bart, Keach, he loved you guys, all your road trips, all your stories, the things that he would tell me over and over and over again, and I love to hear them over and over and over again. He had a special friendship with Carrie. I had the opportunity to go with him on a road trip down, and we got to spend some time with Carrie. This was right after his cancer diagnosis, and my goodness, it was just a wonderful trip, and it was really good for his spirit and his heart. And then Carrie got him his little Lola, and it really did help him. He did much better after that. I want to say thank you to Jerry for painting the casket. You do all realize Brett would love this. Absolutely love it. He loved Jerry's work. He loved Jerry as a friend. I love Jerry because Jerry saved his life. And gave us a lot of wonderful years with Brett that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So thank you. Corey and Karen, our trip to see your van at the car show at Hollow Creek was a really special moment for us. Brett absolutely loved it. He loves you too. And thank you. That's going to be his hearse. And again, if you know Brett, you know he would freaking love that. Noel, and I won't be able to look up. He loved you without measure. He looked up to you, and you served as a wonderful role model for him. After Dad passed away, he wanted and needed your guidance so much. You're a great man, and he so appreciates you. Now I can't see through my readers. The next two are going to be almost impossible to get through. So here we go. Doug, thank you for loving and supporting Brett. He would have been lost without you. He needed your help at the shop and everything you guys did there. You never let him down. And thanks for all the times fishing. Even though you could have let him catch the most fish, at least once. Ryan, where Ryan is. He loved you like a son. Actually, that's not enough because you were his only son. Your ability and kindness are amazing. And your family always treated Brett with such love. Now the hardest one. Gentlemen.
You don't have to.
I do have to. Except for I can't see the paper. You were his kindred spirit. He would do anything for you because he loved you more than anyone. He knew you were the one that cared and loved him so much that you would carry him. Sometimes kicking and screaming to a better place in his life. You always had his best interest at heart, and he loved you for it. Thank you for coming. And if you'll allow me, I want to speak for Brett just once and say thank you all.
Ryan, I wanted to go before John.
You did not say that. You said you wanted me to go first.
That's not fair. I'm Noel Hyatt. My parents were Ray and Maureen Hyatt. Ray Hyatt, my dad, was Brett's mother, Geraldine's sister. Her and so Brett was my first cousin. Brett was 4 years younger than me, but not only were we first cousins, our dads worked together in PhD trucking. The PhD stood for Pinniger, Hyatt, and Davies, and Ken Pinniger was also a partner. He was the P in that. As a kid, Brett and I loved to go in the big trucks with our dads. That was the treat. Working in the shop, we had dirty jobs to do, but the payoff was get in the truck with Dad. And, we had the world by a rope when we were rolling down there with our dads driving them big rigs, hauling lava from Fillmore and mining lava there, and then we'd haul slag for the state that they used to chip roads. And like John said, we had to work hard. We didn't get holidays off. All my friends would, what are you doing on the holiday? Well, we're working. That's what we do on the holidays, is you work. But one time they had a job hauling chips up to Flaming Gorge, and so we went up in the trucks and dumped our load, and I slept in the sleeper. Brett and I slept in the sleepers with their dads, and then his grandpa Frank met us in the morning at the boat ramp with his boat, and we spent the day out on the lake and went fishing. Some of the best fishing I've ever had in my life. There's fishing, and then there's catching fish. We caught fish that day. It was exceptional. And then the other rare escape from work was one family trip to Bear Lake every summer. Usually 3 days, either Blue Water Beach or Ideal Beach. We'd go as a family, and I think that's where Brett got his love for boats. He got it from that experience, being with family on Bear Lake. One of the last years when we had our family get together there, Brett had his jet boat, that souped up hot rod boat, and Burrow wanted to take my dad for a spin in that boat, and so Brett says, "Sure, go ahead," and off they went. And gee, it's about 3 or 4 hours later. Brett's really getting worried, so he got in his dad's boat and went looking for him. And he said he went around. There was a little pier there at one of the lakes, and he says, "There's Burrow and Ray racing every boat on the lake." Ray and Burrow's hair going like this, and 2 big grins on their face. And yeah, that's where the apple didn't fall very far from the tree. When I also had the bug about boats and boating, and I love boats, but I have to concede to Brett because I only have 3 boats. I don't know how many Brett has had or still has. He also had a passion for fixing things, salvage they call it, motorcycles, trucks. He especially loved boats, and and anything that was cool or different. It's always satisfying to take something that has been damaged and discarded by society and restore it to something that brings a lot of pride, and it's very good to see something that's restored. In recent years, Brett would call me if he had something that he thought I might be interested in. He'd say, hey, no, don't know if you know it, but look on Copart today, and I've got it on the watch list. There's something you might be interested in. He said, I think it might be a sleeper. And the thing that the sleeper was, this was a car buying website, IAA and Copart, and they're all car guys on those sites. So when a vacuum truck or something that nobody even knew what it was, Brett says, that's going to be a sleeper. I think you can steal that one. I think you can get it cheap. And we had a lot of fun doing that. And for anybody that knows me or has been in my yard, there is a lot of Brett sleepers still in my yard. Brett was also very moved when my granddaughter passed away. And at her funeral, her dad spoke, and he told the story about Ashley. Got a shopping cart in my yard, and she was going around and filling it up with goodies from the yard until I saw what she was taking and needed to get some of it back. But my youngest son, Riley, he was sitting by his brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law turned to him and said, why is there a shopping cart in your dad's house? And Riley says, well, duh, the shopping carts are right between the airplane de-icer and the ambulance. Brett and I loved going on trips to pick up our sleepers. It was like Christmas Day when you'd pull into the yard and finally put eyes on something that you'd bid. Was it a score or was it a dud? There was more scores than duds, but it was more about the trip than the item. I had many close and in-depth conversations with Brad about life, but about faith. He also liked to stay in good motels. Our trips usually consisted of a night over somewhere, and he always liked the Fairfield or the Hyatt, or he liked good places to stay, and he usually chose. But one night it was getting late, and I was driving, and we hadn't found a hotel. I said, how about that one, Brett? And he's going, oh, no, not that one. What about this one? No. And that went on for half an hour or so, and then there was this Red Roof Inn. It looked pretty good from the road. How about that one? All right. So we went to the Red Roof Inn, and I have to admit, it wasn't a real good choice. So when we go to the hotels, I don't go anywhere without all my geriatric supplies, my breathing machine, and I have my my pillow that I have to carry through the foyer, through the check-in. That always embarrassed Brad. He'd say, "What can I carry?" And I'd say, "You take the pillow." He says, "Well, anything but the pillow." So we settled in at the Red Roof, and I was laying on the bed, and he says, "I'm gonna take a shower first." And so he went into the bathroom, and he come out, towel around his waist, and he says, "No, there's a chalk outline of a body in front of the sink in here." He claims he didn't sleep a wink that night. He said he heard several gunshots. I had my breather on, I didn't hear a thing. I've slept with my dad, so if any of you know him, it was never the Hyatt that we stayed at. After that, he never let me choose the motel again. I have so many stories, but I don't know if any of you are aware of the egg car that's out in front of his shop right now. His friend Carrie, how big was Carrie's? 6'5"? 6'5" and 300 pounds probably.
Well, he was a lineman
He was a line
for Arizona State.
For Arizona State, yeah. He's a big guy. Anyway, this is when that little egg car was running over at BYU. Him and Carrie got the idea, we're gonna take a spin in the egg car. Now, I don't know how Carrie even got into that car. I'm sure he was pouring out of all of the windows, yet alone Brett got in there with him. And then they're cruising around the campus. That wasn't suspicious at all. So all of a sudden they found themselves in a high-speed pursuit with the BYU security on a bicycle. But they thought they were in the clear. I don't know if any of you know the stairway that's about 7 flights of stairs. They went down the stairs to evade capture. But the BYU security had walkie-talkies, and there was a man on the bicycle waiting for him at the bottom. But he had, Jen Lynn had said he had 9 lives, and he truly did. I was trying to think of some sayings of his, and I wrote down some, and maybe if any of you know of some, share them with me, and I'd love to add it. But these are some of Brett's saying. He or she has got skills. That was a forklift driver that could really put a piece of junk on your trailer. Oh man, that lady's got skills. The other one was, have you put eyes on it? Another one is, good on you. Thanks, man. Another one was, he'd get laughing uncontrollably. He'd slap his leg with his hand. That was one. Also, the universal symbol for lunch is here, which he always bought. He always bought lunch. The daily morning call. I saw something you might be interested in. And then followed by, well, Sandy's going to kill me, but there's this thing on Copart. But Sandy would never kill him. She loved him. When I was doing something sketchy or that made him nervous, he'd roll his eyes and do and then when he was feeling down and not well and couldn't help me tie down a load, he'd say, I'm sorry, Noel, I'm I'm no better than fish guts. Brett went in the hospital on the 1st of February, and like John said, he got excellent care there, and I was very impressed by Jen Lynn and her. She was an advocate for him, and if any of you know Jen Lynn, she could crack the whip pretty good and get things happening. But I was able to give him a couple of blessings while he was there. And I was working in his yard, cleaning up motorhomes and trailers at the time. And I felt like he was going to get better. John and I both, we knew he was bad, but we just kept feeling that he was going to get better. And I wanted to get his yard done to surprise him when he was able to come home. But that wasn't the Lord's plan for him. I take great comfort in knowing he's surrounded by many loved ones that have gone before. And he's not as useless as fish guts. He's able to run and frolic and that, my last saying from him was when I screwed something up or dropped one of his sleepers on the ground by accident, he'd say, "It's all right, man. It's all right." Thank you, Brett, for your kind and loving spirit. We're going to miss you.
So at this time, we want to open it up to the floor and hear stories and memories of what you guys have from Brett and the effects that he made on your lives and the memories. No, I'm going to add to your saying of you can't have nothing nice. There was, he stole it from Burrow, but he used it daily. I'm so grateful to have crossed paths with Brett 27 years ago. My life wouldn't be the same without Brett. He did so much for me. He was my father. He taught me everything I know. Taught me how to be patient, appreciative. Taught me how to find the sleepers. We're always bouncing off of each other. Look at this on Copart, look at this on IA. It didn't matter what the time was. But as he got older, he didn't want the text messages past 9 o'clock. So talk to me in the morning about it. And I can appreciate that. Brett's an amazing person, and I'm just so grateful for him and all the memories and stories just as John and Noel have. There's so many trips, so many opportunities, so many nights at the Fairfield Inn. But I'll have you know that even though the Fairfield was nice, there was a truck there one night. Bart Wigner was there. I don't know if any of you guys know his 4-door black and white dually that we just got it all done, and we were down at the swap meet, and Bart had some motorcycles in the back that he'd bought. And parked it outside the hotel room. He never parked where he couldn't see the car. It had to be close to the window. We woke up and Bart said, "Your truck's gone." You're full of shit, you know. That's why. He flew to the window and pulled it open. "Where'd you guys park it? Where'd you park it?" It was gone. Somebody had stole it, and took it downtown LA and stole the tires and wheels off of it. We ended up finding it and able to put tires and wheels on it and bring it back home. And he wasn't very happy, but he was glad to be able to find it and all the hard work that he put into it and his boats and just all of his things in life and his friendships. He's a truly amazing guy. He's going to be missed. So I'll go ahead and open up the mic if anybody wants to share. If you just want to stand and share, I know Brett would love that and appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, no, I think we found a better motel than you did one time.
Wait, I know this story.
I think John knows it. Corey knows it. Brett knows it. Who else is with us? Who else is with us?
Carl might have been. Were you?
Was you with us, Carl?
Where I don't know the
We
story.
went up to Aunt Mildred's, stayed at the cabin.
Yeah, I know the
Island
story.
Park.
They sent us home and we says, "Are you guys okay to get home?" We says, "Well, sure,"
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we kept going from Idaho and we figured we shouldn't see Idaho again. We'd go back into Idaho. So I'd turn around and go another way trying to get to Wyoming.
You can't
Well,
get out of Idaho.
You can't get out of Idaho. So we were supposed to be home that night, but we never made it. I mean, so we had to find the motel and we probably gathered up everything we had. We had maybe 15, 20 bucks.
It's true.
So we found the only motel we could find. But luckily, we all had a key to the room because any key that you had was put in the room. They had 2 beds. There was 4 of us, 5 of us. We had the beds broke before we left, and it was quite a trip. And this is when I had my javelin. Uncle Russell helped me fix a javelin when I was younger, and it was kind of a fun, sporty car. And so we thought we was big guys going to Ammel's cabin all alone, you know. And on the way down there, if I remember right, we was in the car, and I think Burl and Russell. And of course, they don't drive too awful fast, you know, but we had all been in a loop and they give every one of us a ticket. They pulled us over and give us all a ticket. So that started out the game as well. But I have so many stories with Brett. It was just, I was before the time. I was Aunt Jerry's building babysitter. I mean, we used to walk down to Merritt. I don't know if any of you guys remembered Merritt's Market, but and he just sent us money. He says, "You guys just go," and we had to go down to Merritt's, spend half the day at Mapleton Park, and it was just some good old times. Used to do a lot of roller skating. I don't know if Park O'Shea, every single night of the week, we was out roller skating, and I mean, it was just sometime. I mean, we'd get racing around and whatnot, and I'll tell you, Corey and Brett and couple of our buddies, we decided we'd get some good racing in, you know, and I happened to say I thought I was the best skater, of course, but they threw me out of control, and I went and hit one of these beams that run into this thing, and I mean, I bit my tongue. And them guys both have to help me open my mouth far enough to get it out of my mouth. It was about like that big round, but anyway, we just had so much fun, Brett. I'm trying to think of other stories. I went with Burl and Brett a lot in the trucks and stayed in motels all over the place, and just fun times. We just laughed and just had a good old time. Thank you.
I'm sure that everybody is amazed that I'm up here.
I am.
I was the lucky one. Brett and I used to watch Batman and Robin on TV. He used to be Batman, and I always had to be Robin. I also had a pink blankie. I stuck my thumb. I went to kindergarten. My dad told me the kids would make fun of me and quit. But my mom, she sewed a snap on it so that I could snap it on my neck. It made a really good cape. So he decided he wanted that cape. Took it off. He ran into the garage. We chased him and crying. Mom right behind him. She slid on the oil in the
Ooh.
garage. She broke her arm. She got cast to here. I was like, oh, you're in trouble now. Life number one that he survived. He could do anything. He drove fast. He got tickets. He never paid them. He got warrants. I paid them. I didn't have a Christmas tree first year I got married, so I said, hey, I need you to pick up a Christmas tree for me. I'm not sure who paid for it, but he loaded it in the back of his truck. When we were on our way back to his apartment where he lived with Carrie, the police pulled us over. Oh no, it was embarrassing. We had a warrant out for his arrest. So I panicked. We took him to jail, of course, because I was the panicker. Carrie opened the door to the apartment and said, oh, come in, let's watch this show. And I was like, we have got to go get him out of jail. He said, oh, it'll take him a few minutes to process him and take his picture. I know where the money is. We'll leave in 15 minutes. So we picked him up. I took him home. But that was his story. None of us had a driver's license from the time we were 16 till, probably 21 or 22 for me. But Brett was 26 or 27. And there was a guy named Jerry Davies at the driver's license bureau that my dad happened to be a very good friend with. He taught us about points and don't get any tickets. But I am proud to say I have a driver's license. I have no warrants. Brett has no warrants and an active driver's license. I went on some of those trips too, boating. And the day I talked him into letting me take his boat, because it only held 5 people, but you could take 7. Because one would be out water skiing and the rest would be crowded in. And the only thing you'd get mad at is if we left tanning oil on the bow of it, because it made it slick for him to walk on. And it was hard to look cool when he saw all those girls and he fell right on his butt. That was kind of funny, but he didn't think so anyway. So my girlfriends, he used to come down to Dixie College and bring his boat. We went to Lake Mead one year. It was 1,000 degrees. I think Tommy Bob was there and all my friends from college. And somebody left their keys in their pocket when they were water skiing. And they had Dad's truck. So while they were spending all of their time taking the truck apart to hotwire it or fix it or start it, because he could do that, my girlfriends and I took a ride in his boat that had big pipes. I used to call it Suck My Wake. And it keeled on us in the middle of the lake. We're like, now what are you gonna do? I was like, I've seen him do this before. If you open that thing on the top and you dump gas in it, then it will start. We were probably, I don't know, just right off the shore from where they were at. Started up the boat, and sure enough, it started. but a big thing of fire came out of the house, and off we went. We got back into shore and acted like nothing happened, of course, you know. But you know, he forgave me for every time I would ask him to take his car and he would remind me that it had wide hips. And I would forget. He'd forgive me. I loved him. He was my rock. He was my Batman. He was there for me until the end. And when he was at his sickest, he would sit me on the edge of the bed and he would hold my hand and he would say, "It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay." I hope they're all having a big laugh. About what a big fat baby I am. I told him I was going to quit the hospital. I was going to retire in 2 years. Not that I'm old enough, but anyway. He said, "But then what would you do? What are you going to do if you do that?" I have a feeling I know. My dad gave us everything. He was generous to a fault, so was my brother. This doesn't belong to me. It was his. He was there every day. He worked for it. My dad missed my games, my high school stuff, to be at the shop. Everybody loves to be at the shop. Who doesn't? I mean, it's free lunch. If you drive a Saturn, and you're a sister, it's free parts and labor for the rest of your life. Anyway, it was for me anyway. But I'll love him and I'll miss him, and I appreciate all of you for being here. It's a little non-traditional to have a program. That's my mother's music. She wrote that book. Noel's mother wrote the words. I got 7 stepbrothers. When my dad remarried, and I'm grateful for every single one of them. So, I'll miss you, Brett. Thanks.
I am Brett's oldest cousin, and I'm the oldest grandchild in the Hyatt family. And Brett was one of the little kids, and I don't really have any entertaining stories about Brett, just that it was fun. He and Cheryl and Carolee, and then later Jana Lynn, brought such joy to the Davies family and all of us. And I just had this thought that we've all been praying for a miracle, that Brett would get well, come back to his normal, happy self, and get over the horrible things that he's gone through. And we wanted a miracle. And maybe the miracle is that he got to go home. And that there are people there who love him, who are watching over him, and he will now be a guardian angel. I'm so grateful to know that. Grateful for Brett and the Davies family. And I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I didn't know we were sharing stories, and I don't have anything planned. But if my mom can do it, then I can. And it's probably good that everyone didn't know that they were going to share something, because we'd be here all day. My Uncle Brett was was the coolest person I knew. And everything he did or had was cool, even if it was junk to someone else. And going to his house the other day, I'm like, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna turn it into a museum? There's so much, he just has so much cool stuff. He was the best gift giver. He came over with my grandma and grandpa every Christmas morning at the butt crack of dawn before the sun was even up. My mom would call my grandma and grandpa and let them know that we were awake. We'd do our family Christmas, and then they came and gave the coolest gifts. That he just had an eye for cool things, and he really would think all of this was so cool. He fixed my car countless times for free. When I wrecked my car into my mom's car, when I wrecked my car into my sister's car, when I wrecked my car into a pole at a church parking lot when 0 other cars were in the parking lot, when I slipped on ice and it went into a curb. I think that's all the times. I got my fair share of tickets, but I will miss my Uncle Brett so much. He brought a raccoon to our house. He caught a baby raccoon on the railroad track and brought it to our house. He cut off his ponytail and donated it at our family reunion auction. I mean, anything he did was just cool. He was so generous. He loved my mom. I'm so glad that they have such a good bond. I'm grateful for all our memories, and every time I got to go to the dentist, I got to go to the shop and eat Glade for free. And in the most unsanitary environment.
Free. It was free.
My mom tried to clean it. It just never happened. But all the cool stuff that you got to look at when you went there kind of distracted you from the dirt and grease. So I've had countless uncles. I thought everyone that worked at the shop was my uncle. Uncle Ryan, Uncle Kurt, Uncle Brett, everyone's your Uncle Doug, everyone's your uncle. So I'm grateful for all of you coming and everyone that's helped put this together to honor my Uncle Brett. Yes, he really would have loved it. These things mean just Christmas.
Amen.
This is really hard for me. I've known Brett for 40 plus years. And Janwin mentioned the Lake Havasu trip where somebody may or may not have lost the keys in the bottom of the lake. I may or may not know that person. I have, in the early 80s, when I met Brett, I mean, we were just nonstop together. Everything we did, we had so many trips, so many adventures from the Northwest coast to Mike and Carol Lee's, to the Northeast coast, to Cheryl and Brian's, to go drop off a Volkswagen Rabbit that we drove cross country. Water ski trips, auction trips. I don't know if one story, I've heard several stories that I know, but I have one story with Brett. Gentlemen will remember it. Mom, she'll know of it. Brett and I used to make a lot of, we called it a stealth run. We're going to the auction in California. And we would leave like on a Sunday night about 10 o'clock. The whole trip was only about 30 hours long and we were back home. It was straight down, switching drivers. And we got down into Southgate, which is right in LA County. And it was me and Brett and one girl that went with us. And I think Brett was driving. We got there a little bit early. And Brett got out. He said, I'm going to go stretch my legs. And Southgate's a rough neighborhood. And these auctions, they all have guard dogs.
inside their fenced areas. And so Brett says, I'm just gonna walk up the street. We're parked maybe from here to the end of the building here, from the gates where the trucks go in and out with all these wrecked cars. Brett walks up past the gates to the corner, turns around, and is coming back at the same time the guard was going out to open the gates to get ready for the day and then put the dogs away for the day. And these are like German Shepherds. And so just like pick a horror movie, when somebody turns to run away from something that's after them, what happens? They fall down. So the guard had opened up the outer gate and was going back in to close the inner gate. They left the outer one open all the time. Well, before he got the inner gate closed, the dogs saw Brett. And they start barking and chasing. He makes a run for the truck. And we're watching. He's like, 10 yards away, and he fell. And there was 4 dogs, and they each grabbed a limb. And they're just, so I won't go into all that, but when we got him back into the truck, and I went in and talked to the lady at the auction, she was a Russian lady, her name was Sonia. And she loaded us all up in her Mercedes and took us to the hospital to go get Brett taken care of. He's missing a couple little chunks out of his legs. And could he have done something about that? I mean, yeah, he could have sued the auction. He could have a lot of things. Just like Nola, he said, it's okay. No big deal. Everything's all right. But so many water ski trips, so many, that same trip when somebody may or may not have lost those keys. I remember Jalyn was there, I think, in your Rabbit convertible, a white Rabbit convertible, I think.
Ford Fiesta.
Huh?
Ford
The one
Fiesta.
that alternator went out.
Was that the one that I had to siphon gas into?
I don't know.
You ran out of gas in one of your cars on the way to Havasu. And I remember siphoning gas out of the truck to put it in her car and swallowed a big thing of gas. And for half the day it burped and these gas fumes were just coming out of my mouth. But I have more memories with Brett Davies probably than anybody on this planet. And the bulk of that would have been in between like 80 and 85 was the bulk of it. We were just nonstop together. We were roommates. We did so many things. And there for a while, we kind of grew apart and then later got back and we trips to Pomona, trips to the swap meets. I just went on his last Pomona swap meet trip on just a couple months ago, and we would just yak like a couple of old biddies, just sitting there with nothing to do, all the way down, all the way back. We just all the stories. He would remember stories that I didn't. I would remember stories that he didn't. And other people remember stories that neither of us did. And looking through my photo album to get some pictures for Jan Lynn and pictures with the Hyatts in 1983 at Lake Powell. Remember when we almost sunk the 2 boats? We made our human wall to get them back up out of the water. And that was always fun trips. But a lot of memories. I could go on for days. But I would see Brett still all the time. My shop's just down the street from his. And every time we get together, we talk about the old times. And there's so many people that were in those as well. I mean, Jan and your roommates when we were going water skiing, and Carrie, and a lot of people, a lot of memories. He's going to be missed. I'll have to find somebody to go to the swap meet with, I guess. Probably Bruce Keach. Bruce told me we can still go. So good to see a lot of you that I haven't seen for a while. A lot of the family that at the Davies that I haven't seen for a long time. It's good to see some of you. So he's going to be missed. Thanks.
I'm cousin Steve, and my dad is Uncle Burl's brother. So when Tom got up, it reminded me of the 80s, and I lived with Brett and his family for a few years while I was going to college, and it's true. In the 3 or 4 years that I spent here in Utah, I have a lifetime's worth of memories. My first 2 speeding tickets were with Brett, and it was always because I wasn't going fast enough. And then, sure enough, the cops would come up right. I went to jail 2 times with Brett. I didn't go in jail, but they made me sit in the foyer. But because every time he got pulled over, they'd haul him in because he had so many tickets. And then I remember Uncle Burl coming and bailing him out and being all mad at him for a few hours, and then it was business as usual. But I just have a lifetime's worth of memories for the short time I was here, and one in particular I remember because, you know, we went water skiing in the summer every day. If Utah Lake was, I mean, we'd go to Utah Lake and they called it skiing the scum back then. And I remember we went snow skiing, I think at Sundance one day, and the next day we went water skiing and we were wearing a wetsuit, but I'm telling you, it was so cold that you couldn't let go of the rope. But that was just the kind of life it was like with Tom and Carrie, and it was just something all the time. It's just such a fond part of my life. And Brett was like a brother. He was like a brother or a best friend to everybody he came in contact with. And he left quite a legacy. And I'm just grateful I was a part of it. Thanks.
My name's Sarah, and my mom is Lucille Hyatt, and so I felt like Brett was my uncle. I don't know if he's or not, but he was my friend, and I felt really grateful that I had him in my life. Anytime I called him, we never went on any trips, but we'd go on a trip through his shop, I guess. This one particular time, it was when I was younger and I wasn't married or anything, but I was sent by my dad to go to the shop and get something from Brett. And so I walked through there and I walked right by his dad sitting in the chair, Uncle Burl, and I didn't even see him. And then I walked back and he said, "Well, hello, Sarah." And I just jumped and it scared the hell out of me. And Brett and I laughed a lot about that over the years. We always, we brought that up, and he just, when he died, he still kept the chair in the shop. And so we would always talk about him. Anytime I talked to Brett, he'd always say, "How are you doing?" He was sincere, and he loved me, and I loved him. And that was an honor to feel loved by Brett. When he sent me a message a few months ago, and it was just this saying, it says, "You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore before you decide to be happy." And that was Brett. He was always happy, even through all of the hard shit he had to deal with. He was happy. And he just loved, and he loved hard. And it was an honor for me to know him, and he'll be missed. I just wanted to come up and say thank you to Janelyn and Ryan and good people that I have in my life here, that I could be a small part of Brett's life. So he will be missed. I'll miss the talks, and I'll miss the 9 o'clock "I love yous." So I love him.
Hello, my name's Ari Velez, but I'm Carolee Forsling's daughter, Brett's niece. and I have a funny story to tell about Brett. I lived in Virginia for a while. That's where I went to university, and I was very single. I was very, very single, and I was very unhappy being very, very single. And I got done with school, and I was working, and I was working as an EMT in the DC and then the rural Virginia area, and I was working nights, so I had no social life, and I had no friends very close by because I'd moved a little bit far away from my college friends, and I was talking to my dad and for Christmas one year, and I was home back in LA, and my parents love me, and they wanted me a little bit closer than the exact opposite side of the country. And I was telling them how unhappy I was and everything, and they said, well, hey, well, why don't you move? Where do you want to go? And I said, well, I don't really want to move, but you know, what do you guys think? And they said, well, I bet you could get a good job in Utah and you'd be a little bit closer. And I said, no, I don't want to move to Utah. I hate Utah. And anyway, I moved to Utah. And I had, when I was out in Virginia, I had a truck. It was my baby. It was an old Ford F-150. It wasn't anything special, but it was my truck. It was beautiful. It had dumb, stupid racing stripes down the whole middle of it. It was painted to look like Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds, and it was a really fun thing. And anyway, my dad said, okay, I'm going to fly to Virginia, and we'll pack you up in your truck, and then we'll drive across the country and maybe to Utah. And I said, okay, let's do it. So we did that, and we did this on the last week of February, and driving cross country in the last week of February was a little chilly, a little cold, and we were pulling a trailer, and we get almost to Utah. We made it over the Rockies, which was a miracle because the car was not happy, very unhappy at this point. And made it over the Rockies. We're coming down. We're in Grand Junction, Colorado at like, where's Dad? What was it, like midnight?
No, it was.
It was late.
It was about 4 in the afternoon when it happened.
Oh, really? No, it wasn't. It was nighttime.
No, that makes a better story.
It was nighttime. You're wrong. Anyway, it was nighttime. I don't know what time it was, but it was nighttime. Anyway, the engine of the car died, and we're on the side of the freeway, and in Grand Junction, Colorado, the mecca of the city of Grand Junction. And there's a laugh. She knows Grand Junction. There we go. And the engine dies, and so we end up having to get towed, the truck and the trailer towed off the freeway and towed off to some garage. And at the garage, they tell us that it was going to be like $5,000 to get a new engine because the engine was done. Completely dead, could not be revived in any way, shape, or form. And I'm like, we didn't even pay $5,000 for the car, you know? And I'm just kind of like, well, what am I going to do? I don't have any transportation. We're in the middle of nowhere. Like I was, doing the traditional like freak out of what am I going to do? And my dad says, we're going to call your Uncle Brett. We're going to call him. We're going to see what's going to happen. And so we called Uncle Brett, and he was, I can't remember what he was doing. He couldn't come that day or something. So we had to leave the truck in Grand Junction, and then we rented a U-Haul truck to drag the U-Haul trailer that was full of my crap up to Utah. Made it to Utah, and then a couple of days later, Uncle Brett went down with his flatbed, and he loaded my truck up onto his flatbed, and he drove it back up here. And we told him, we said, okay, they told us it was gonna be $5,000 to fix this thing. It can't be $5,000, right? He goes, oh, no, it's not gonna be $5,000 to fix this thing. No, it's not gonna be that much money. And then he gets it in his shop and he calls my dad up and he says, well, Mike, it's gonna be $5,000 to fix this thing. And we said, well, we can't do that. And he said, okay, well, you sell it to me and then I'll sell you a Saturn, because I have some Saturns coming in. And we said, okay. And he had two options for me. And one was, this sporty little manual transmission thing. It was real fun and black and sleek and whoosh. Yes, whoosh was a describing factor in the car. And the other one was a nice little blue 4-door sedan. It was not whoosh, but it was good. And he says, I know which one she's going to want. She's going to want the black one. It's really, really fun, fancy thing. But it was manual transmission. And it had been probably 5-6 years since I'd driven a manual transmission, because they aren't very popular anymore. And he says, okay, Ari, you need to come test drive this. And I said, okay. So I get down there and he gives me the keys. He says, okay, go test drive it. And he says, you know how to drive a stick, right? And I said, yeah, I know how to drive a stick. Uncle Brett, come on. And I said, okay. So I get over there and I'm in the car and I'm trying to start the stupid car. But apparently it had been 5 or 6 years, just long enough to forget that you have to put the clutch in to start the car. And so I'm sitting there and I'm trying to start this car and it's going, and I look over and there's these guys, they're standing there laughing, and Uncle Brett's kind of got this little, his little shit-eating grin that he wears sometimes, and he just had that grin on his face, and he walks over and he goes like this, roll down the window. I roll down the window. He goes, Ari, got to push the clutch in. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And he goes, okay, just push the clutch in, go drive it and come back. And I said, okay. So I pushed the clutch in and I go drive it and come back. And yeah, I liked the whoosh car. It was really good, but it was a little bit more expensive, so I took the blue one. But anyway, he was so nice, because when I ended up getting this car, I really liked the radio from my old truck. And I said, Uncle Brett, could you put the radio from my old car in my new car? And he says, Ari, of course I can. And then he puts the radio in, and then I picked the car up later, and he was very, very sweet and very kind, and all of that happened after he and I had kind of had a little tiff, and he was still real nice about it, and he just didn't even say anything, and we just kind of moved on, and then when I had some problems with the car, he said, okay, bring it by, I'll fix it, don't worry about it. I said, okay, are you sure? What do I owe you? No, don't worry about it, I'll fix it. And it was very telling of his character that, I wasn't super close with him because I grew up kind of far away, and we saw him sometimes on his trips down to pick up cars and stuff, but we didn't get to see him as much as the Aldises did, and we weren't as close with him, but it was always a fun time when he was coming into town, and he would have a little gift for me and my sister, and he was always very kind and very loving, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. Okay, bye.
Hi. So Carrie is my uncle. I just wanted to share. We've been over cleaning out Grandma and Grandpa's house, and every time Uncle Carrie's come up, Brett would be there. This one night, I'm like, let's take a picture, and Brett's like, okay. So that picture on there of him doing the disco move, I took it. I'm like, come on, Uncle Carrie, turn around. He's like, yeah. I think Brett grabbed him and flipped him in the air or something to make him smile, because there was one of them together. But then he came back. Uncle Carrie came back a couple of months later. We're out. We're cleaning, and Brett makes that I'm no better than fish sketch joke or whatever. And I was like, oh, HE double hockey sticks, no. So I'm like, hey, Uncle Carrie, how does he eat? And Uncle Carrie said there, he's like, oh, that man, he eats like a horse. And I'm like, how creepy is it that I'm 28? Should I just go ask him on a date? Like, I've known him since I was young. And Uncle Gary's like, yeah, he's walking up, hurry, go. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, Brett, come on, let's talk. And we're talking, and I'm like, so what do you like to eat? He goes, anything or something. I was like, okay. I'm like, I heard you like to eat like a horse. I'm like, do you want to go out one day where we can boost your spirits a little bit and we can go eat like horses? I'm asking a 60-year-old guy on a date. It wasn't anything serious, but I'm like, man, I'm 28. What am I doing? But he just smiled so big and started laughing, and he's like, yeah, let me give this some thought and talk to your uncle. I was like, they probably talked afterwards, but I'm pretty sure that, I don't know, it was just funny, like Uncle Carrie set that up and then they laughed about it afterwards or something. I don't know, but I was like, why is he so down on himself? Like, I'm gonna take that guy out, we're gonna eat like a horse, but we didn't anyways. But he's been, even through when he was sick, he has been at my grandparents' house helping. I mean, if you know who my grandparents are, you know they like stuff. And he just, even though he was sick, he was over there doing the best he could to help out my family. Anyways, Bert's a warrior, heart of gold. Yeah, he'll be missed. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you for those of you that have shared your stories. It's very appreciated, and I'm sure that if we had all day that it would go on and on just because of this special spirit that Brett had on with all of us. At this time, we'll have Brandon Christensen give the family prayer, and we will close the casket then and go to the cemetery. Follow.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are so very grateful for this day and for this opportunity we've had to share life experiences with Brett. We are so grateful for the night plan and for the opportunity we have to see him again. We are so grateful for the relationships we have been so fortunate to build with Brett. We love him dearly. He has been such an inspiration in so many of our lives and such a great example. We are grateful to have been able to have this time to celebrate him and in his life and be able to do it with so many of his close friends and family around him. We are so grateful for the knowledge that we have, that we, as thy children, have been blessed with the knowledge to be able to see him again. We know that this life it teaches us so much, that in these experiences that life is so temporal, and that through thee and thy plan that things become eternal. We get so much enjoyment and happiness to know that Brett is with his family, with those that have passed before him. We're so very grateful for Jesus Christ and for the plan of salvation and for these knowledges. We're so grateful for Brett and for his examples that he he has set for us and for the bar he has set for us as his friends and family. He was a kind, sweethearted man, an example of generosity to all of us. A person that everybody wanted to be around. And we thank him for that. We love him so very much. We are so grateful for all that we have. Grateful for this opportunity and this service, and for the opportunities we've had to share our experiences of him. We love him so much. We love thee and are grateful for all that we are blessed with. And we say these things humbly. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.